F1 in 2025 is very different from what it used to be. Double amounts of celebrities, a bunch of over-exaggerated drama, and some total clown shows from the management are only a few of the changes we've seen over the years. But there are a couple redeeming factors, one being the drivers. With some minor exceptions, we have some great drivers with some great personalities on the F1 grid. All these drivers are at different points in their careers and in very different situations, and it got me thinking, what does each driver need right now in their careers? Max Verstappen is a very special case right now, but what he needs is a good car. As we've seen from the examples of Red Bull's revolving door of second drivers, the car is a tractor. Now, Max complains about it every week while still performing incredibly well, but his teammates aren't faring too well, which just shows Verstappen's incredible skill gap right now. Coming off the back of 4 championships in a row, he's definitely in his prime, and that can't be wasted. Now, you're probably looking at the screen saying, "Oh, but Max is only 27.
Shut up, Meg.
We've seen plenty of drivers peak early in their career and struggle later, and while Max is an exceptional talent, longevity is something to hope for, not something that's guaranteed. Regardless of moving to another team or not, if Max Verstappen doesn't have a championship ready car soon, his dominant reign may pass. Yuki Tsunoda is in a very weird spot right now. He was initially passed up on for the second Red Bull seat, then pivoted to after only 2 races of Liam Lawson, and now he isn't performing very well. Seeing how patient Red Bull is with their drivers, I wouldn't be surprised if Red Bull were to kick Yuki to the curb before the season ended. Now, I think Yuki has a solid chance to be a good driver in F1, but the issue is where. With Honda saying they won't be funding Tsunoda anymore, and him most likely being out of the Red Bull family, all he needs is a real chance to prove himself and make sure his career isn't as short as he is.
Everybody's a Ferrari fan.
Lewis Hamilton low-key spiraled after 2021's incident, and understandably so. Mercedes was a train wreck up until he announced he was leaving, and then they finally started to look like they were getting their shit together. But that didn't matter because Lewis was announced to Ferrari before the 2024 season even started. In all honesty, Ferrari is Lewis's last stint in F1, no matter how long it is. He isn't going to another team, and with how it's going right now, it's not looking too bright. Every race, Hamilton seems to end up in a no man's land where he's not fast enough to keep up with Leclerc, but he's not slow enough to lag back with the other teams. The engineer conversations are only a clue as to how Lewis feels, and the race results speak for themselves. So if Lewis isn't able to figure out stuff now in Maranello, it might be over for him.
I am stupid.
Charles Leclerc's only real hope is to leave Ferrari if he wants real long-term success. As much as he has been their golden boy for years, it's just a shambles right now. Leclerc's an incredibly talented driver that puts the car in places it shouldn't be, but the team just sabotages him. It's like how there has to be a blue shell in Mario Kart, except in this case, the blue shell is strategy choices from the Ferrari pit wall. But in reality, unless Ferrari makes not only a technical jump, but a strategic jump as well, Leclerc might have to explore other options if he wants to be a world champion.
It's broken!
More than anything right now, Lando Norris just needs to lock in. I know it's a trend to hate on him right now, but he has all the talent and the machinery to be a world champion. The real thing blocking him is just a lack of confidence. He has some major mistakes and lapses of judgment, like in qualifying in the race in Canada, but when he truly focuses, he can just wipe like he did in Austria. Although it's not the exact same, Max Verstappen had a similar case early in his career where he was very aggressive on track and raced for wins rather than championship position. But 2022 and onwards, it just seemed to sort of click for Verstappen, where he became more composed in driving for the championship. Lando's always been on the back foot in terms of where people expect him to finish, and now that McLaren has a car where he is in the championship fight and actually the favorite, it's a very different environment. But I think once he really finds that composure, he could easily win this year's championship. Now, when I tell you that I thought of everything for Oscar Piastri and I couldn't come up with anything, I mean it. He races smart, he has the best car on the grid, and he has a lockdown seat in F1 for the future. So what is there not to have for him? In this scenario, my reasoning for Lando doesn't apply here because Oscar only raced in a non-podium contending car in F1 for a season and a half, and he won literally everything in the juniors, so he didn't really have that same need for a change in mindset. Realistically, if Oscar keeps doing what he's doing right now and stays consistent and keeps being smart with his driving for the championship, there really is nothing to critique for him. Now, there have been a lot of rumors in the media for contract talks with Mercedes and George Russell. Russell told the media that his contract was being delayed because of Mercedes talks with Max Verstappen. With Antonelli sitting as Mercedes' project for the long term, Russell really needs to sign that contract. If he somehow loses out with Mercedes, he doesn't really have any more top team options. McLaren's locked in with 2 great drivers, and if Lewis were to pull the plug on Ferrari, they would snatch up Ollie Bearman in a heartbeat. The only other option would be Russell to Red Bull or to a midfield team, and with the current state of Red Bull, the move would be a sideways step at best. So as Mike Tyson would say,
Sign the contract, big boy. Come on, sign the contract.
No.
Kimi Antonelli really is the Spider-Man of F1. When he's preparing for final exams, he's terrorizing Max Verstappen on track. No, but seriously, he is a very good, promising talent in F1. After scoring that podium in Canada, Kimi's shown his potential, and in Austria, he showed his lack of experience. Not in a bad way, it's just how you'd expect an 18-year-old to drive an F1. Mercedes really does have a future with this kid, and all he really needs is for Mercedes to stay patient with him. As long as they don't have the same patience as Helmut Marko, and they let Kimi develop, he'll be a star in F1 in the future. Now, I'll be honest, Fernando Alonso's only hope is if he stumbles upon the fountain of youth. The issue isn't his driving capabilities, it's just simply his age. When he put it down to skill, he's still performing at such a high level, but his age is just such a big push factor for opportunity. No team's going to sign a 45-year-old because they're too focused on their future, and we really don't know how long Fernando has left in him. It could be another 5 years, or it could just be one, and that unpredictability is enough for teams to steer clear, so it's kind of an unhelpable cause at this time.
No, I'm in the wall.
Now, if you're a viewer of this channel, chances are you've seen my Lance Stroll video, and you can conclude that I think he needs to leave F1, and I'm sticking to that by saying that here too. I'm not only saying that because I want him gone, but I honestly think it's just better for him. Lance looks like he's fed up with being in F1, and the amount of hate he's getting is wild, so leaving would honestly be better for him. He can finally take up that tennis career that he always wanted, or maybe a decade down the line, we could see him back in F1 buying a team for his own little mini Stroll. Sainz got screwed over pretty hard when Lewis Hamilton decided to commandeer his Ferrari seat, and after taking too long to decide where he wanted to go, he was only left with midfield teams to choose from. To be quite honest, the Sainz-Williams saga isn't going too well right now, and with Alex Albon outperforming him significantly, he can't seem to catch a break. As much as I'd love to see Carlos Sainz make the move back to a top team, it's just really unlikely, and unless he stumbled upon the Phineas and Ferb time machine, he's going to be scrapping for points for the rest of his career.
Huh?
Alex Albon's made a home for himself at the Williams team after Red Bull gave him the cold shoulder and gave him the kind of treatment that would end up on an Am I the Asshole post. After adapting to Williams and thriving there, I don't see Alex leaving unless an incredible opportunity presented itself, where he would most likely be a second driver to a team. But if Williams were to make a good car that could contest for race wins, Albon would go crazy. He's turned into a much more confident driver there, and the team supports him, so if Williams were to go crazy, Albon would probably be their go-to guy. Isack Hadjar is a very rare case in the Red Bull family right now. He's performing very well at RB, and both teammates he's had this season have crumbled at the senior team. It's genuinely in Isack Hadjar's interest to not get promoted to the senior team, which is kind of crazy to say. We've seen time and time again that Red Bull promotes a driver too early, and they take time to adjust, and Helmut Marko leaves him in the dust just like Jos Verstappen did with Max at the gas station. Realistically, if Hadjar is able to stay put and keep putting in good performance like he has been, he could see a solid future at Red Bull or another team, depending on which one gives him a better opportunity in the future. Now, Liam Lawson had the image of quite a terrible 2025 after getting dropped for Red Bull, but judging a guy based on 2 races when he hasn't even raced a full season in F1 is a bit harsh. Lawson has shown his talent, especially scoring a P6 this weekend in Austria and finishing as the leading Red Bull car, but he really doesn't have much opportunity at Red Bull in the future. His situation is really similar to Pierre Gasly, where regardless of how good he starts doing, I really doubt Red Bull will give him another shot. With Arvid Lindblad likely going to the second RBC next year, Lawson has to escape the Red Bull family before it's too late and try to save his career before he gets dumped from RB. Now, I just grouped the 2 Sauber drivers together because I concluded that they need the same thing right about now. Although they're at very different points in their careers, they both really just need to pray that Audi can give them a good car. Nico Hülkenberg shocked the world by putting the Sauber in P5 in Spain, and Gabriel Bortoleto looked like the second coming of Senna this weekend in Austria. So I genuinely think if Audi were to have a good car, these two could do some serious damage. No, not that type of damage. Nico Hülkenberg can finally secure that long-awaited podium, and I genuinely think Gabriel Bortoleto is a future world champion in this series. Audi just needs to unfold properly for things to fall in the right places before we see Audi world dominance. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Esteban Ocon is the most mid of mid drivers in F1 right now. Yeah, he has a win and a few podiums, but that's besides the point. Looking at where he is in his career right now at Haas, for a midfield driver, I'd be surprised if his F1 tenure keeps going after Haas. If you paid attention to Haas, You know that every driver that has driven for the team has not raced a GP with another team after Haas, with the recent exception of Nico Hulkenberg. Ocon has the chance to try and replicate the role of Kevin Magnussen and stay at Haas for the next coming years if he wants to stay in F1, otherwise, he's going to leave.
Ciao!
Now, Ollie Bearman has all the things he needs to become a top tier F1 driver. He has the Ferrari ties, some solid Haas performances, and a car that has a decent pace to contest for points each weekend. Now, one thing he also has, though, is his teammate Esteban Ocon lurking in the other side of the garage. If you watched my last video, I talked about how Ocon has pretty much ruined every teammate relationship he's had in F1, and although nothing's happened yet, Ollie Bearman just has to hope that Esteban Ocon doesn't do his best to ruin his development. Pierre Gasly made the move a couple of years ago to leave AlphaTauri and go to Alpine, which career-wise was definitely the right choice to leave, but entering the dumpster fire that is Alpine was a bit of a choice. With the team principal changing more than Red Bull's second seat, every team principal has had different opinions on drivers, and Flavio Briatore is no exception. Briatore didn't hesitate on showing Jack Doohan the door to bring in Franco Colapinto, and I'd be surprised if the same didn't happen to Pierre Gasly. Fernando Alonso has been linked to a move back to Alpine with Briatore being his old manager, and Bottas has been in talks with Alpine as well. If Pierre Gasly doesn't start looking for opportunities now, he might be feeling it as a Marshall next season.
Messi.
Last but not least, we have Franco Colapinto. He just made his way back into F1, and all he needs to do is keep his car in one piece. After all the crashes in the Williams last year and some lackluster performances this year, if he doesn't stop crashing, he won't have a spot at Alpine. Jack Doohan had that big crash at Suzuka, and Colapinto got the call-up, so I wouldn't be surprised if another driver like Paul Aron got the call-up if Colapinto were to do the same a couple more times. It really just lies on what Alpine have in mind for the future, especially with how much change we've seen in the team over the past couple of years.